How's it going, folks? Doing a little 25K best ball draft here on Drafters. So, last anybody saw me, I was doing drafts on Draft last season and writing articles for Big Dogs Fantasy on best ball specific strategies. So this summer I'm not going to be working with them, but I do still highly recommend you get their draft guide. And if you want to play on this new platform called Drafters, if you use the promo code BDGE, you'll get a 50% bonus on your deposit. So what I'm going to be drafting today, I've picked 6, is this $25,000 guaranteed contest. It's $5.50 to enter, and first prize is going to be $10,000. And there's a bunch of other prizes, depending on how you do. So one of the things we want to keep in mind the most in this is our stacking from last season. So I'm going to put a link in the bottom of this video for the best ball deep dive into stacking article from Big Dogs I wrote last year. And after I make my pick at 6 and we'll have a little time to talk, I'll pull that article up and show you a couple things in there. But these roll pretty fast, so I'm going to make my first round pick before I do anything else. So one major change is that these best ball drafts on Drafters are 20 rounds now instead of the old 18 rounds on Draft, which means that our old roster constructions are pretty much garbage. We could throw that out the window. Just like now we're going to be drafting 3 quarterbacks, 6 running backs, 8 wide receivers, and 3 tight ends to fill out our roster. That's how we're going to get our 20 players. If you remember, last year we had to pick if we wanted 3 quarterbacks or 3 tight ends, and whichever one I was taking first and spending more draft capital on was the one I was cutting down to 2 of. But now we don't have to do that. You do have to keep track of where the last of the starting quarterbacks you actually want go. All right, this is kind of unfortunate. We're just going to take Dalvin Cook here. I like Devontae Adams just fine here, and if this was a normal league that wasn't this contest, I would take Devontae Adams here. But being that we need maximum upside to win this type of contest, I'm going to take Dalvin Cook with pick 6. So we're only going to draft 2 running backs or 2 wide receivers with the same bye week. Keep in mind, you can't drop people, you can't trade. There's nothing like that goes on in best ball. Once you draft your team, you're stuck with that team. So a nice thing about having Dalvin Cook here is that in a different league that I've already drafted, I have Alex Madison. So that's really how you want to handcuff in this type of a contest. You don't want to handcuff by having Dalvin Cook and Madison on the same team, because that's just going to lower your possible upside, right? Like the best thing that can happen for me having Dalvin Cook at pick 6 is that he plays all 16 games somehow and, rolls. And if that's the case, then you don't want Madison on your bench getting you very small points. But having Cook here and Madison on a different team means that at some point, if something goes really bad for this team, it's going to go really good for my other team because I got Madison, around 11-ish or 10-ish, one of the two. So interesting that Mixon went over Devontae Adams. Another change to drafters as opposed to draft is these leagues are full PPR and draft was half PPR. So your wide receivers are a little bit better in this league. As I was saying about the quarterbacks too, these are 10-man leagues that I'm drafting for this big best ball championship. Generally, I draft 12-man leagues, so the quarterbacks get a little thinner than they do here. So you can wait a little longer, in 10-man league to make sure you get your last quarterback. But I'm still trying to avoid certain situations, right? I don't want any Miami quarterbacks at all. I don't want any Chargers quarterbacks because you don't know when and who is going to start what games. I'm avoiding Chicago too, not only because I just don't think they're very good, but just you don't know who's going to start. I mean, I think it could be Trubisky for 2 games and Foles for however many games, or Foles at first for a few games and then Trubisky. So Chicago, Miami, and the Chargers, completely avoiding all those quarterbacks for this for these best ball drafts. All right, so let's take a quick look at the stacking. We've got a couple. So actually, I probably should make my pick here. Then we'll take a look at the stacking. So it's looking pretty nice for us to get a really good wide receiver here. Miles Sanders is one that's kind of a bummer. He kind of hides out down a little bit in the ADP. Might actually take George Kittle here too. Kind of depends who this pick is. It's got to be Devontae Adams, right? Like, this person can't possibly not take Adams. Oh, wow. We're getting Devontae Adams in the middle of round 2. That is some fire right there. So we've got Cook and Adams by week 7 and 5 going. All right, so let's take a quick look at this deep dive into stacking. So this is my article from last year on Big Dogs Fantasy. And this basically tells you how many points per quarterback point these positions scored. So your wide receiver 1 correlated pretty strong to quarterbacks at 4.46 points to point. Wide receiver 2 was about a third of a point per point, and tight end. So when you're deciding who you want to stack with your quarterback, you need to be stacking like their best options available if you can. Now, if you can't, you still need to try to get some of their like lower options. So it really depends on like team to team and quarterback who you're looking to stack the most. All right, so if you take a look at the bottom of this article from last season, these are the 2018 correlations for the Chiefs and the Falcons. And you see if you had the Chiefs, you obviously wanted Tyreek Hill and Kelsey, and then like nobody else correlated that strongly. Like Sammy Watkins at 0.28 is whoopee. And then the Falcons for that year, you want Julio and Ridley. So you're seeing here you want the wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. Here you wanted the wide receiver 1 and the tight end. So it's pretty obvious who the best people is in a lot of places, but in a few it's not. So just keep that in mind. You want to stack with the top options if you can. And if you can't, you still want to get some of these other options. Because definitely can raise your win percentage an amount that matters. So on average, it was raising your win percent in a 12-team league from 8% to almost 11% by stacking. And that might not seem that much, right? You're like, oh, it's 2.5%. That's not that big of a deal, but it is a pretty big deal because, you're winning at 8.3% to start with. So by going up 2%, that's 20% higher. 25% higher. So when you consider that you're winning 25% more often by winning 2% more often, it's a pretty big jump. So in a 10-man, I'd imagine that would flatten out a bit. So you're going to win the league 10% of the time in a 10-man, right? 100% divided by 10. And you're stacking, you're probably going to get a 2.5%, 2.2% boost. So you're going to win, 12.2% of the time or 12.5% of the time if you have these strong stacks in your lineup. So at our next pick, we're definitely going to be considering Patrick Mahomes, but I would like to not go there. Definitely on the radar, though. I really like the value you can get on like Dak and the quarterbacks that you're getting in round 6 as opposed to the quarterbacks you have to take here. We also need to keep in mind running back gets, super thin fast, but I don't think a good Mahomes one. That's cool for us. I don't think we're going to take a running back here just because I think that the value is much better on the wide receivers. Do like Fournette a bit just for this season here. Hate Fournette in Dynasty. Want nothing to do with him. I don't mind like Jonathan Taylor here, but I think I'm going to wait around. Just like I don't mind getting like a Carson or a Todd Gurley or something. Clyde Edwards went. He's pretty good in the full PPR. I have no idea what to think of Damian Williams. He's one of the players I'm the most confused about. So we have the choice between Mike Evans and DJ Moore. Not the easiest of choices. So we're going to eliminate Golladay from the equation here because he's by week 5 and we already have Adams, and that would close off by week 5 for us, and we don't want to do that. Pretty tough choice between Moore and Evans. I think Evans is a little bit better of a high-end best ball play because of the touchdowns. So Moore is definitely a better safe guy. Like if I was making this choice in season long, I would pick DJ Moore. But being that we're in best ball here where we want those big maximum high weeks because you're basically trying to finish number 1 out of 10 every single week. Like you won't do it obviously every single week, but you want as many weeks as you can finishing number 1 out of 10. So that's why we went with Mike Evans there over DJ Moore, who's probably a better pick overall. So we need to at least consider running back on our way back. Zach Ertz also, he's like so underrated in these. I'm not going to take Zach Ertz because I've literally gotten him in the 6th round of these before. So there's no way I'm going to risk picking him in the 4th when there's some possibility he can fall. But, I mean, he should be going in the 4th. The Eagles are already down Alshon Jeffrey for God knows how long. Deshaun Jackson might get cut because of the issues he had with Twitter there. So I'm still pretty high on Zach Ertz. As far as running backs right now, I'm definitely looking at Fournette, Jonathan Taylor, and Gurley, who just went. Carson I'm interested in as well. Definitely can afford to let things ride one more round there as well. But I forgot you have to click all. I still used to draft, man. I got so used to that platform trying to click each one to light them up. You have to click all on this one. I don't think we have to take Fournette here. I just took him last draft, so I really don't want another share, but I don't think it's too bad to take Carson over him. I have like 1 share of each because I've done 2 of these already. See, up here you can actually see how many of these some people have done. You can see some people have done a ton more of these than I have. This guy's on 23. I'm doing my 3rd one. This guy's doing his 71st. So this dude's going to have 71 pulls at $10,000. There goes more. So guys I'm interested in, it's kind of down to Fournette and Carson. A.J. Brown and Juju at wide receiver. Jonathan Taylor I have some interest in. The fact that we have no clue what's going to happen with the Connor, huh? I'll take Fournette or Carson here. Does either one of them have a bye week issue? So Fournette is already a bye week 7. We've got Dalvin Cook who's a bye week 7, and that's not that big a deal. You can easily have 2, but I like to only have 2. And I don't want to make this selection limit our future selections by cutting off of all of the week 7s. So because of that, I'm going to take Chris Carson. Carson finished as a top 12, I believe, running back last year, and Penny's looking to be out. That's a pretty close pick. I think that really just came down to the bye week for me. I think, next time if I had, say, Kamara here, I would have taken Fournette. So Zach Ertz actually went, correctly in this draft, which is kind of cool. I like this James Conner pick, too. He was actually on my radar as well. I might have taken Connor there if he hadn't have went, just because I haven't picked him in one of these yet. So yeah, Jonathan Taylor and Fournette both shared bye week with Dalvin Cook. Not that big a deal. That's not like the be-all, end-all, but I really didn't have a strong pull on which guy I wanted to pick, and that's kind of when you want to use that information, So we're definitely not looking at quarterback until round 6 here. I think tight end is Mark Andrews just went. Waller's the only person left that I really care that much about, but not in a hurry to pick him either. So there's a few guys that I'm just not drafting right now in best ball because their ADPs are not going down, despite the fact that there's some risk that they could not play this year. And those players to me are Mark Andrews because he has type 1 diabetes, John Brown and Tevin Coleman because they have sickle cell. So I have no idea what's going to happen with this situation. Those guys might just end up playing, every game. Who knows? But I'm waiting for more information before I start picking them because it's not going to affect their ADP at all, right? They're not all of a sudden going lower because this situation is out there. Everyone's just taking them at the same point anyway. So I'm going to have to pick between Mark Ingram and a wide receiver here. Kind of hoping Thielen does not get picked because that's going to be my pick. Still Le'Veon Bell as well. Nice. All right, we're going to take Thielen here. I think he's going to have a massive year with just like only the rookie across from him. So we got Dalvin Cook and Chris Carson, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Adam Thielen. It's pretty good for full PPR. So one thing we can keep in our mind now is we've drafted weapons before quarterbacks, right? So we can keep in mind that we can stack that way as well. Mostly we're thinking about the quarterbacks first because we think about the quarterback and their weapons, but we already have weapons, so we want those quarterbacks to be on our radar. So, Kirk Cousins should probably be on our radar. We've got Thielen, we've got Dalvin Cook, and let's take a look quickly. So in my stacking article here, most of this information I pulled was from something called the Dfs Correlation Matrix, which is in the definitive guide to stacking for DraftKings. So the site 4for4 did this, and this is where I've pulled the data on like how strong each position here correlates to your quarterback and why stacking is good for you. So you see the RBs don't correlate very strongly to your quarterback, so they don't matter as much if you're pairing them, but they do correlate some, right? So you're getting some tiny, tiny bonus. There's still going to be like Dalvin Cook receiving touchdowns and other guys like that. So even though the correlation's weak, it's still there, so it's something to keep in mind, but it's definitely like tertiary to these other options. So I was getting into the ADP there. Ooh, Dak. Good pick for Dak going that high. He's been pretty much slipping in these. A little surprised to see him go there, but that's all right. I think if Le'Veon Bell is not picked by our pick, I'm going to be forced to take him. But whatever. Please, someone snipe him. Akers has already went. He's a bit deeper down the list. Swift is still on the board. I'm really trying to avoid rookies until I get later into wide receivers for this year. I mean, I'll take Jonathan Taylor around where he went. He was in my mind. I'll take Clyde Edwards in round 3. It's a little tough for me to take him in round 2. It's just there's too many good wide receivers that are getting tons and tons of work there. So keep in mind this is full PPR. I really don't know what to think of Mark Andrews. There goes Le'Veon Bell. That's interesting. Could go for Waller here. Probably not going to take Kyler or Russell Wilson right off the bat. Was not expecting him to go. I really like Mostert in this format. I think I'm just going to take, David Montgomery and his million touches. So David Montgomery, very unexciting pick, but you do need some semblance of floor people. You can't have absolutely every pick be swinging for the fences. So we don't have anyone that correlates for Kyler or Russell Wilson. We could still pick them up, although Lockett is already gone. Pretty sure DK is already gone. I think I'm just going to keep waiting on quarterback. I may or may not be interested in Waller with this next pick. So, yeah, I'll send a link in the description for this definitive stacking guide from 4for4 for 2018. So this is a DFS related article, but it's really applicable to best ball because best ball is basically DFS. There's it's a series of DFS contests where you don't get to pick all your guys, but you're trying to come in number one out of however many people. that are playing that week over and over again. Starting to get to the point where I'm kind of interested in Swift. This is round 7 or 8. It's not too bad to take a shot on him. I have a feeling he'll go before our pick because we still have a few here. Definitely some interest in Waller, especially in full PPR. I think that's my current lean. Let's break it down a bit. There is still Kareem Hunt, Mostert. Kareem Hunt definitely a lot better in full PPR than he is in half PPR. I do think there'll still be some semblance of a running back I want the next round. There goes Waller, so definitely not taking a tight end now. Wide receivers, there's a bunch of fine options, but nobody that stands out. I really like Marvin Jones, but I think that we can get lucky and get him one pick later, so probably going to take a running back here. Leaning Mostert or Kareem Hunt. Like both of them. I think Mostert's going to have some huge weeks and then some pretty stinky weeks. He does have the same bye week as David Montgomery, and it's week 11. That's not that big of a deal. I am going to take Kareem Hunt though. I already have Chubb in one of these, and it'd be nice if something happens to Chubb. Kareem Hunt is absolutely the type of guy who's going to be able to win you $10,000 in this contest. So let's go with him. So we're through 7 rounds now. We don't have any competing bye weeks at running back or wide receiver, which is nice. Like I said, it's not that big a deal. I'm gonna end up with two wide receivers, 2 running backs, probably that have the same bye week. But the longer you can delay it, if you're making choices where you don't really know who you want, that leaves you more open later. Whereas you might be it's definitely happened to me, especially with week 7. I'll be pretty late in and be like, ooh, Laviska Shenault, this is a dude I like to actually have some production this year. And then I'm just crap, I can't take him because I have too many of that bye week. So we're definitely getting to the point where if Kyler or Russ were to get to us, even though we're not going to be able to create stacks with them, we're probably just going to have to take them because they're going to be too good. There's one off the board. So if Russ goes, we can drop a tier. So the reason why I'd still take Russ over, Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, who we have stack pieces for, is just because I have Russ a tier ahead, and I don't break tiers to stack. I will pick within a tier to make a stack. I would say I only had Mike Evans, I'd pick Tom Brady over Rodgers. Or if I only had Devontae Adams, I would pick Rodgers over Tom Brady. But because I have Russ Wilson a whole tier above those guys, I won't pick those guys over him. Marvin Jones still on the board. Mostert's still on the board too. It's going to get interesting here. We could decide to take yet another swing at running back. Yep, Jones is still on the board. I'm probably not taking a tight end for a while. After Waller, the next whole bunch is whatever to me. So for me, I have Russ Wilson, Deshaun Watson, and Josh Allen all a tier above the rest. So is there one of these guys that I think will be easier to get a stack piece for? We already saw Will Fuller go off the board. I could end up with Brandon Cooks. Diggs is already off the board, and I'm not drafting John Brown. Don't really care about Dawson Knox. It's kind of tight here between Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson on just who I like better, period. So we're going to take one of those two. I'm going to take Deshaun Watson. I think he just has, the higher maximum upside of the two. We've seen Deshaun Watson absolutely dominate fantasy before. I know Hopkins is gone, but sometimes it just doesn't really affect these quarterbacks that much as far as their fantasy numbers go. He's got Cooks coming in. They have like 5 decent wide receivers. He might be forced to use his feet a lot more, and I mean, the guy already runs a good bit. So that was a pretty tight pick between Watson and Wilson. I basically only took Watson because I feel like his like absolute best possible season is better than Russell Wilson's. So we still haven't taken a tight end yet. Glance back at the board. There's still just no one I'm super duper interested in. I don't mind Hunter Henry. I don't mind Hayden Hurst. I'm not taking Jared Cook. Higbee I like. Fant I like. Still just tons and tons of tight ends I like. There goes Russell. Pretty interested in Marvin Jones if he stays on the board for our next pick. He's a guy that's got some underrated stats. He's been slightly better than Golladay the last 2 seasons as far as fantasy points per game when they've played in the lineup at the same time. And everybody like goes bananas for AJ Green, right? Oh, his upside if he were to stay healthy and all this stuff. Well, his last 16-game season, AJ Green's, was 2017. And over his last 16 games, Marvin Jones had more points in those 16 games than AJ Green had in his last full 16-game season. So I think that they're pretty comparable as far as upside goes. We're definitely not to the point where we consider taking a second quarterback just to make our stacks happen here. I might take a shot on Hurst or Hunter Henry. I have a little bit of interest in Jordan Howard. We're not going to take Madison on this team because we have Dalvin Cook and we don't want to lower our upside. Justin Jackson's a guy I like taking pretty late. Here goes Hooper. He's one I was not very interested in. Just kind of browsing around to see what's going on. Definitely would like to get Brandon Cooks to go with Watson, but I think I can wait 1 round for that. Tom Brady's a little interesting, but I don't think there's any world where I would take him over Josh Allen. Oof. The Fantasy Football Oracle smoked us with taking Marvin Jones. That's pretty good. So we're either going to go down to Brandon Cooks or we're going to take one of these tight ends. There's so many tight ends I like. See if there's anybody I like just so much more than Cooks that it would be like kind of crazy to take them. It's just not. So we're going to reach a bit here, get our stack piece. When I say reach, they're just like all those wide receivers to me were fairly close. So I wanted to secure this stack piece. I thought that pretty much those guys are all in the same tier. It's a pretty big tier when you get to those like mid-round wide receivers. The tiers are pretty huge. Definitely have some interest in picking up a tight end on this next pick. If Hunter Henry and Hayden Hurst go, will I have any interest then? Still probably have interest in Higbee, although he just went. So if Hurst and Henry both go, then we're off tight end. So we'll not be taking anybody else. Brady, I'm still just like, whatever. Be nice to have him to go with Mike Evans, but not necessary. Rodgers still on the board as well, and we have Devontae. Three picks, kind of hoping one of Hunter Henry or Hayden Hurst makes it to us. Constantly looking at RBs because I hate getting locked out of that. I think that my pick after this likely is going to be running back. Yeah, Jordan Howard just went fairly annoying. Definitely would like to have had him be an option in the next round. So Breida and Sony Michel, pretty interested in. I'm sure you've noticed at this point that my face is burnt. Went out on the lake yesterday and got some serious sun. Wow, Madison, a little early for me, but I don't hate it. We're in round 9. I tend to pick him in 10 or 11, so we are going to get a tight end if we want it. Okay, so Hayden Hurst went off, so we're definitely going to take Hunter Henry, and I'm going to hope that Matt Breida makes it back to us, but I'm not super duper. I'm not expecting that to happen, but I'm definitely hoping it does. So right now at the top of my queue is Matt Breida, followed by Sony Michel. If both of them go off, I might take Zac Moss. I know he's a rookie, and I kind of like to avoid the rookies, but I think he's going to get a lot of red zone work. Definitely could start considering our quarterbacks now if we want to get one of Brady or Rodgers to go with Evans or Adams. But I think I would take Breida over those options, especially in full PPR. I think he's going to get a lot of catches out of the backfield there. So I kind of got my eye on running back here. Just since I know that, I'm definitely not taking tight ends. I'm just kind of browsing the wide receivers, make sure that I'm not missing something great. I do like Preston Williams quite a bit, but he's also one I don't hate to let go. I like N'Keal Harry a decent amount. There's still like almost all the rookie wide receivers on the board. I think what's his face? Lamb is gone, and that's it. Debo is like just fine. I'm not really too keen taking the risk, especially since he sounds like he's wants to play 1,000% week 1, and that scares the crap out of me with his injury. Like, settle down, buddy. Get healthy. But the dude is definitely tough. Well, we still got a couple of our RBs we wanted on the board, so there's 3 guys I mentioned: Breida, Sony Michel, and Zac Moss. All 3 have not been taken yet. Oof. I just despise Jared Cook this year. As a Saints fan, I just don't think he's going to get that much volume. I mean, he only had 43 catches last year. He scored a touchdown 13.5% of his catches, and his career rate was 3.5%. So I just don't see how it doesn't go down. Like, now they have a real wide receiver too in Emmanuel Sanders. So I think he'll get more work. They're going to have Kamara back, at least in theory, and we know there's a correlation between tight end targets and running back targets. Well, come on, website. Oh boy. Site was freezing up on me there. Did not want me to get Matt Breida. But we have gotten him. So, because we have Breida and Montgomery now, Zac Moss is off of our possible draft list because he is also by week 11, and we definitely don't want 3 running backs at the same bye week. So that could be an argument for taking Sony over Breida, but this is full PPR, and I would just rather have Breida. So we'll seriously consider taking one of Brady or Rodgers if they're there when we pick again, to go with Mike Evans or Devontae Adams. We haven't picked wide receiver in quite a while, but that's okay. I almost always have my last 3 picks be wide receiver because wide receiver is so deep. So we really only need to pick up 1 more wide receiver, and then our last 3 picks are going to be wide receivers. Preston Williams, definitely a very attractive target at this point. There goes Rodgers. So let's see if Brady goes before us. If he goes, then might not have an interest in quarterback here. Would like to get Cousins a little later to go with Thielen and Dalvin Cook. Maybe pick up Irv Smith. So you only want a maximum of 2 of the pass catchers. So you don't want to get too wild with your stacking. When we broke down the data we got from draft last year, we saw that there was positives if you had up to 2 of them, like, the wide receiver and tight end, or wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. But once you got to stacking 3 weapons with the quarterback, that your win percentage actually went down. So you want to avoid doing that. You want a maximum of 2 of, you could have the running back in 2 of them, but a maximum of 2 between wide receiver and tight end. I think that the reason why the win percentage goes down then is, 1, you're creating kind of a trouble with your bye weeks, right? Because you're starting to get a bunch of guys now that have the same bye weeks. And also, when that team just shits the bed that week, now it's something major. So we are going to get Brady to go with Mike Evans, which is nice. I'd like to keep Kirk Cousins in the back of my mind as my 3rd quarterback to go with Thielen and Dalvin Cook, but I'm not going to take him crazy high or anything to make that happen. As far as our last running back, I have some interest in Justin Jackson because I think he's going to beat out Joshua Kelly. I mean, I'd have some interest in Sony if he's still there when we pick again, but it just seems, even with all of his foot troubles and whatever, I still think he's going to get. I think he'll be ready for the season, and I think he'll get all the short yardage, and all you need is a touchdown and get in your lineup. So one thing I'd like to point out about best ball that a lot of people don't really seem to get is they think that you can really afford to have a bunch of handcuff running backs on your bench. And I like to only have a maximum of 1. So a maximum of 1 real handcuff where it's this guy just kind of is crap unless injuries happen. The reason for that is people say, you only need 2 running backs per week. You only play 2 running backs per week. You only play 1 quarterback per week. But that's not true. You're playing your entire 20-man roster plays, and you get to pick the system picks the best ones, right? So I don't look at it as you only need 1 quarterback. I look at it as you get to play 3 quarterbacks, and you get the best result of the 3. So I definitely don't look at that like you only play the starters. Sean Jackson, a nice pick. Wow. Pretty interesting. I guess people are off Sony because of this foot thing, but it didn't sound like it was too much danger of missing the start of the year. After Sony, I have some interest in Justin Jackson, like I said. I have some interest in Zac Moss, but I'm not taking him because of our bye week situation. I have a little interest in Antonio Gibson. He started off as a wide receiver on here, so I have a bunch of shares of him when he was a wide receiver. There goes Sony. A.J. Dillon's a little interesting. Well, can be interesting. Darrington Evans I like quite a bit too because I think he's going to get a fair amount of pass catching work. So since Sony went, I think Justin Jackson is the running back I'm the most interested in, which means I'll probably wait. I wonder if Preston Williams has went yet. There's Anthony Miller. Just taking a peek at my bye weeks there. Has Preston Williams went yet? He has not. Tight ends, still a bunch I like. Yep. Just going to scoop up Preston Williams here. I think he's probably a tier above all these other wide receivers for me. Coming back from the ACL, but he's expected to be ready for week 1. So hope that happens. He's a really nice dude, too, to have because the upside, again, in this type of format where you're not trying just to cash. So normally in these best ball tournaments, if there's 12 teams in the league, the top 4 cash, or 1/3 of the league cashes. So you can afford to make some safer plays to try to get into that money. But in this one, you're really gunning for that first prize overall, that 10 grand. It's so much of, it's almost half the prize pool. It's 40% of the prize pool is going to first place. So to pull out all the stops and take the risks to try to get it. So that's, why we're taking Dalvin Cook at pick 6. Got super lucky on that Devontae Adams in round 2 in full PPR. Really liking our team so far. It's pretty nice. We could take a tight end up next. There goes Zac Moss. Very good pick for that guy, getting him in the slate. Wish we could have afforded to do that, but we cannot. Still just not feeling the pressure to get tight end really at all. So we got Darrell Henderson on the board at running back. We got Justin Jackson still like a good amount of quarterbacks that should be taken ahead of Kirk Cousins, who we'd like to get as our 3rd, but like I said, we're not going to go crazy for it. Might pick up my 6th wide receiver here. So the guy I got my eye on is N'Keal Harry. I think I'm going to take him if he makes it to us. That would be nice because it kind of open up. If we miss on Cousins, Cam Newton, just go with Harry and have that little stack going. So pretty sure I'm going to take N'Keal Harry here and then look at either a running back or a tight end with my next pick. If Harry goes, I'm going to have to adjust on the fly because I really don't have a second pick queued up in mind. It's kind of who I want. Paris Campbell would be aight. Justin Jefferson went a bit earlier, so we're definitely not too interested in the rookie wide receivers down there. Rager and Jefferson I'm fine with. Judy and Lamb I'm fine with. I like T. Higgins more than other people, even for this year, because a lot of people just completely writing him off. Oh, there goes Cam. So we're going to take N'Keal Harry here. And hope he can deliver on that promise. Just checking my bye weeks. All right. My microphone's kind of in the way, so I have to look around it to see what I got going on for bye weeks. So we got 2 more wide receiver picks, so we're definitely going to try to save those for the last 2 picks. Pretty interested in tight end with my next pick. Also, Justin Jackson interests me with my next pick. That one could end up being like a complete burnt pick, Justin Jackson, but what can you do? He's definitely the type of guy where if he were to stay healthy and be in the spot next to Eckler in the RBs, you're talking pretty big upside. I think he had like some crazy yards per carry last year, like 6.9 or something ridiculous. That like led the league on as many touches as he had. So we're definitely not interested in wide receiver. Some interest in Justin Jackson. QBs are thinning out a bit. There's still like Baker, Tannehill, Bridgewater, our boy Cousins that we wouldn't mind getting now. There's Minshew, Lock. Cam did go off, so we do not have the option of the Cam with N'Keal Harry combo. So tight end starting to get a run here, so I might snatch one. I like Irv Smith a good bit this year. I think he's going to be like forced to take on a bigger role because they're going to need playmakers. And Rudolph's nice and all, but he's not that much of a playmaker. He's pretty good down the red zone, which is annoying, though. I don't think I would take him over, Doyle, these top guys here, or Thomas. But, I was more just saying that as if a bunch of these guys had went in a row. A lot of people are pretty high on Jonnu this year. Kind of see him as a guy that's had the opportunities to do it a lot and hasn't really done it that much, but he did have a few good games last year. I think he had a 100-yard game last year. So we'll kind of be deciding between Justin Jackson and tight end. Alshon Jeffrey's a guy I'm just not drafting any of. I will have 0 Alshon Jeffreys. I'm fine with that. I have a little bit of Ayuk, but not nearly as high as this guy took him. So, do we want to risk waiting a pick on tight end to get Justin Jackson? The answer is yes. There's still a pretty good amount, and like, if we get quote unquote screwed there, I don't mind some of like the later options like Sternberger and Irv Smith. So our running back now is all done. We've picked our 6. We've got Dalvin Cook, Chris Carson, David Montgomery, Kareem Hunt, Matt Breida, and Justin Jackson. Remember, this is full PPR. Really liking that grouping. Chris Carson catches a few more passes than people realize. Also, Penny's probably going to be out of there. And interesting to see how much they use Carlos Hyde, because I do think that they'll use him some, early on to help Carson out. I don't think you're going to see much DJ Dallas this year. But I really like our running back group. Definitely solid. So on the way back, I'm going to be deciding between a tight end or Kirk Cousins if Kirk Cousins does not go. Interested to see how many of these tight ends go. There goes Jarwin and Jonnu. So we might be getting to the point where I've got a tier break coming up. So I definitely have Doyle and Ian Thomas a tier above some of these other dudes. I have Herndon in that tier, but he kind of scares me. I also have Ebron in that tier, but he also scares me. There goes Doyle. So if Ian Thomas is picked, then we're just going to go ahead and take Kirk Cousins. If Ian Thomas is there, we're going to take Ian Thomas. If Ian Thomas goes, we're going to take Kirk Cousins. Wow, they're just hammering the tight ends this round. We might abort mission here and just decide to go with a tight end. I don't really want to get too much deeper and have to take 2 tight ends. So the only tight ends left I have in like a tier above the rest are Ian Thomas and Eric Ebron. Then the top of my next tier is Jay Sternberger. Don't know what to think of Gerald Everett. I like Dawson Knox a little bit, but this is kind of too early for him for me. I want to make sure that we're not going to have a bye week issue. So Hunter Henry's a week 10 guy, so we couldn't have taken Jarwin. There goes Ian Thomas. That's kind of a bummer. So we're between Ebron and Irv Smith. We could pre-plan to hopefully get Kirk Cousins in the next round and take Irv Smith, and we'll have Irv Smith plus Thielen as our 2. Let's do that as our 2 stack pieces for Kirk Cousins. So let's take Irv Smith. Really like the upside of that guy. He can have an explosive year, but it is concerning that, near the goal line they like to throw to Rudolph so much. Antonio Gibson for somebody. Pick 156. That's really nice. Get the upside of him. I am a lot less interested in him as a running back on here than I was as a wide receiver. As a wide receiver, it felt kind of cheaty. Because, you only had to burn one of your 8 wide receiver spots as opposed to one of your 6 running back spots to get the shot at his upside. So we need still a tight end, a quarterback, and 2 wide receivers. Likely going to be waiting till the very end for the 2 wide receivers. Tight end on the board, I think I'm the most interested in is Jay Sternberger. Quarterback I'm the most interested in is... I still have Ebron a tier above. So Ebron and then Sternberger at tight end, and for quarterback, I do have Baker still like a tier above Kirk Cousins, so that'd be interesting if I'm forced to make that pick. I have Baker a tier above Kirk Cousins, but I'm far from sure that I should. Baker scares me a bit, but in my best ball rankings, I did put him in tier 2. I tend to have like bigger tiers for best ball because of stacking and whatnot. So I actually have like 7 quarterbacks in my tier 1 and then a whole bunch in my tier 2. Should probably start cutting those down. Tannehill and Garoppolo. Still no Baker. I think from the fact that we, just took Irv Smith on the gamble that we would get Kirk Cousins back, that we definitely shouldn't be passing Kirk Cousins if he's there. I think I'm going to do one of the no-nos and just take him ahead of Baker, even though I have Baker ranked a tier ahead. Something I advise not doing, but I'm just not real confident that I should have Baker in that tier. I think I might just drop him down. Big Ben. O.J. Howard. This one I will not be taking. Ruggs, I really like in best ball at this point. It's a pretty good pick. This FF Oracle has made some really good picks. Picking people that I normally pick earlier than me. So I'm not going to gamble on waiting around for a quarterback because I really like to get my third quarterback here. I'm just going to take Cousins, go with Thielen and Irv. So our 3 quarterbacks all have different bye weeks, so we don't ever want to have 2 quarterbacks with the same bye week. It's just too risky in this format. So we got Watson at week 8, Brady at week 13, Cousins at week 7. So we still have to make 3 more picks. So we're looking for 2 wide receivers and a tight end. And the tight ends I like the most on the board are Ebron and Sternberger. Neither of them conflict with Hunter Henry or Smith for bye week, so that's nice. After those 2, I'd probably take Dawson Knox. I'm not really sure between Disley and Olsen who's going to play more if Disley's healthy. Last year I hammered Disley in round 18. We killed it in round 18 last year, so my if you want to look up my best ball deep sleepers article from last year, we had Will Disley in there, Darren Waller in there, AJ Brown in there. In the videos, I talked up DJ Chark and took him a ton in round 18, so we really did well in round 18 last year. So we're looking at Ebron or Jace. Hoping one of the 2 makes it to us. Carlos Hyde, I hate that pick. I mean, he could end up being really good, but I don't think Penny's going to miss the whole year. So at some point that would make Hyde the 3 unless Carson gets hurt or Penny doesn't come back. Then Hyde's the 2, and then I don't hate it. But I don't like that there's that uncertainty that there could be 3 of them, plus whatever DJ Dallas may do in the passing game. He might get like 2-minute drill or 3rd and long or any of that stuff. Ebron off the board. So I think Sternberger is my top tight end, followed by Dawson Knox. Then I guess one of Olsen or Disley, but Steve Sims, I like him a lot, but I'm happy to see him get picked there. There's some people that would want to gamble on Njoku here because he's demanded to be traded, but we're not certain that he's going to a great situation. Nice. So loving that I'm getting Sternberger here. The Packers asked Sternberger to learn the playbook from the slot position this summer, so I think he's going to see a lot more of the field. He might be used, like Mark Andrews, except with more snaps. That doesn't mean he'll be as good as Mark Andrews, obviously. Mark Andrews was my most owned player last year in best ball at 43%. When we first were drafting in the offseason, we were hammering him in round 15, and he kept creeping up. And I think he ended up in round 8 or 9 by the end of the best ball drafting season. We were still taking him there. But man, was it nice getting him in round 15, and then 14, and then 13. So yeah, he's on my list of people I'm just not drafting at all for now. Like once we find out that he's good to go and he's not opting out and he's playing this year, I'm just going to draft him in like 10 drafts in a row because his ADP right now is being unaffected. So there's no reason to take the risk right now. Like you can just wait, find out that he is playing, and then draft him 20 drafts in a row if you want, and then boom, your ownership percentage is back up. I really think that there is a chance of him opting out with his health condition. Same with John Brown and Tevin Coleman. Do I know that for sure? I have absolutely no idea. But remember, in these videos last year, I talked to you guys about fading Andrew Luck because there was no reason to be drafting him because he was out a month past when he was supposed to be, and he still wasn't practicing with this calf injury that he had going on. And I told you just there's no reason to bother. There's no reason to take the risk. He should have been back at that point. Didn't make any sense that he kept missing time. A month past when he was supposed to be back. They weren't telling us anything about what was going on, right? So I ended up with 1% Andrew Luck because I stopped drafting him. Had his ADP fallen, then I would have started taking him because, like, you can't make it back, right? Like, if his ADP had fallen to round 8 and then we found out he was fine, his ADP would shoot back up and you couldn't just hammer pick him in round 8. You'd missed out on your opportunity when you had him to get him at a cheaper price. But right now with these guys, Mark Andrews and Tevin Coleman and John Brown, nobody's worried about this stuff right now, so their ADP isn't affected at all. So if you do find out that they are going to be fine to play, then you can just hammer them 10 or 11 drafts in a row at their exact ADP they're at now, and you take no risk whatsoever. You don't risk them opting out, and you don't risk missing on a lower ownership percentage because you can just boost that ownership percentage at the same ADP later. So for our next pick, I have definite interest in Paris Campbell, who I expect to get sniped on here. Renfro, high on the list as well, especially in PPR. T. Higgins, I like more than most people like him for rookies. Alan Lazard, I like a bit, but we're starting to get a little heavy here. I got like Sternberger and Adams, so not super interested in that. Wow. Checking bye weeks. So we have Thielen, that's a week 7, and that's it. So we're going to hammer Paris Campbell here. Really like getting him in the spot. So our quarterbacks are all done. We've got Watson, Brady, Cousins. Running backs are done. We've got Dalvin, Chris Carson, David Montgomery, Kareem Hunt, Matt Breida, and Justin Jackson. Our tight ends are all done. We've got Hunter Henry, Irv Smith, and Sternberger. This is like a pretty weak group overall, especially if something were to happen to Henry. At least both of our other guys have chances to like have kind of breakout years, but we might be in trouble. Jalen Hurd, I picked him in round 18 in my last draft, and I didn't feel great about it later. Interesting one. So we're going to pick up one more wide receiver. So in our queue, we've definitely got Renfro, T. Higgins. Who else do I have interest in? Lazard, but I'd like to kind of avoid that. LaVisca, but we already have 2 by week 7 guys, so I'm probably going to avoid him. I don't mind Russell Gage in this format. It's PPR, so he's like a decent floor play, and then he gets a bunch of volume if something were to happen to Ridley or Julio. There goes T. I like Tyrell Williams a good bit for the start of the year, but then I think he's going to sort of disappear as those other guys take over. But I like Tyrell Williams a ton for like week 1 DFS against the Panthers. I think he was like wide receiver 19 at the point when he got hurt last year in fantasy. His price is going to be like $0 in daily fantasy week 1. So I'm probably going to have some sort of like Carr, Tyrell Williams, Hunter Renfro stack week 1. Or maybe Tyrell Williams and Ruggs, depending on if they say how much Ruggs is going to be involved. Could pick up Randall Cobb as like a piece that stacks with Watson. I like Renfro too much more, though. There goes Cobb. I would just have picked Renfro anyway, but really hoping Renfro doesn't get picked here. He seems like so by far the best player available. Come on, dude, take Lazard or like Chanel. Ugh, that was disgusting. I'd take Tyrell Williams and really try to capitalize on what I think is going to be a really strong start to the season for him. Corey Davis doesn't interest me much. Isabella, meh. I think I'm just going to take Lazard and live with the fact that I'm going to have 3 Packers. So I guess we at least got lucky that we didn't end up with Aaron Rodgers, so having the 3 pass catchers from the Packers isn't going to give us a negative correlation. Another nice thing about that is we only have to get through bye week 5, which is, early in the season, obviously, before we get our 3 Packers. Definitely really sucks that Renfrow went there. But our wide receivers ended up Adams, Evans, Thielen, Brandon Cooks, Preston Wilson, N'Keal Harry, Paris Campbell, and Alan Lazard. So I'll probably be doing maybe 3 of these that I'll record at some point. So good luck, and hope somebody out there wins that 10K.